Alright, a lot of people asked me to keep them updated on whatever happened. At first I thought nothing even remotely scary would happen. I was still thinking this was probably a messed up prank from my supervisor or my colleagues. Sadly, that was proven not to be the case. Yesterday was my second day at work. I met my other colleagues and some of the other staff members. The first one I talked to was Samir. He's the security guard that takes care of the entrance and Section 1. The museum is distant of everything and at the top of a mountain, so we don't get lots of visitors. I'd estimate today we had about 500 individuals. So each security guard patrols 2 sections, but no one patrols the 9th section. I don't know why. Anyway, Samir is from Bolivia, but his parents are from India. He's a quiet guy, but seems to be nice and was very kind to me. The second person I met was Victoria. She's a nice woman who seems to be in her 50s. She spends the entire day, when not actually working, playing Candy Crush. The third and last of the security guards that aren't me is Hector. He's in his 60s and has a tired voice. He's the only one of us that does not consume cocoa and seems to be addicted to smoking. The others I met were the janitors. I think there are 12 of them, 3 for each sector, except Section 9. I don't know why there are so many of them. The whole point of ruins is to see ruined places, and they don't do a lot of things apart from collecting the trash of the trash cans, but who am I to complain? Oddly enough, there are 12 janitors. I didn't see one of the janitors of the 6th section during the entire day. I mean, even the picture of him in the Guadria is empty. They have one for each employee. So, let's get started. I arrived around 9:45. Only Hector was there, smoking a cigarette at the entrance. When I approached to greet him, he said, "I know what you want to talk about. Not now. Wait until noon. It's usually the safest time." I got a little confused, but he tapped my shoulder and offered me a cigarette. "No thanks. I quit 2 years ago." "I sell medical tranquilizers and relaxing substances if you'd like also. Just talk to me if you need anything." "Wait, you smuggle drugs in here?" "Yeah, but supervisor literally orders me to do it. Most of the staff wouldn't be able to work without being calmed by something. I myself included in this category." In that moment, a car parked next to us, and Samir calmly got out of it. "Hey, what are you guys doing?" he asked, as he masticated a piece of cacao. "We're waiting for the supervisor to open the entrance, like we do every day," Hector said. "Why? Don't you guys have keys to the entrance?" I said. "Of course I do, but it's usually safer when we wait for her." I tried to ask why, but they evaded every question related to why this so-called safety was. After 15 more minutes, another car arrived. Our supervisor got out of it, with a blank expression. "Javier, in my office, in 5 minutes," she said as she entered the ruins. "Senora, it isn't 10 a.m. yet," Hector said with a cough in his voice. She ignored him. I immediately went to her office. It's a small cabin just at the side entrance. Her waiting room had various Inca decorations, a falsified deer head on the wall, and a security desk, which was empty. I tried to open the door to her office, but it was locked. She told me to wait. After 5 minutes or so, she opened the door. I immediately went to her office. The actual office was far simpler than the waiting room. It actually seemed like an interrogation room. Small, with no windows, a ventilator on the ceiling, and just a closed laptop on her table. She looked at me like she wanted to burn me alive. "Javier, did you violate Rule 29? "Oh, I don't know, Senora Rivera." "Shit. Then you've already caught their attention." "Okay. Listen, Javier. Pay 10 times the attention you were giving to the rules before. For your own sake." "Madam, if this is a joke, I'd like to say I'm not enjoying it." "No one enjoys it. Please, be safe, Javier. We can't afford to lose another employee. You're acting just like your predecessor, and that didn't end up well for him. Senora, what happened to my predecessor? Well, I think maybe you should see for yourself. She opened a drawer in the table and took out a binder, which she put on the table. Francesco Cagaras, 28 years, guard of Section 7 and 8. Disobeyed Rule 29 2 times. He talked to his family about the special security measurements and to his neighbor. Violated number 19 several times. Violated 9 once. Once, because he disappeared. We found him 3 days later. She showed me the register of the violations. Was he okay? No. We found half of his body at the base of the mountain, impaled on a tree. We have not found his legs yet. His eyes and heart were removed. Now, do you understand what you're getting yourself into? She handed me a print of my first post at Reddit. The error is that not that you posted this on Reddit. The error is that you did it without any colleagues nearby or outside the Guadria. Please, avoid violating security measurements. You can go now. I didn't know what to say, although my mind was riddled with questions and more questions, so I just left when she opened the door. Now, the rest of the day was almost completely fine. Almost. I afforded to work, even with the questions plaguing my head. In the lunch, no one wanted to answer them, not even Hector. The event which is worth taking note of happened around 1945. I was only 15 minutes away from leaving, and the museum was already closed for an hour. I was watching one random Bolivian soap opera in the ancient TV of the Guadria when the signal started to fail. I tried to put the antennas right again, but couldn't. Victoria had already left. Hector and Samir were not there at the time, so I had nobody to help me fix the signal at that time. Damn, I said while going back to my seat, when I heard Victoria calling me outside. You should know that, due to the high altitude of the Bolivian mountains, even a whisper can be heard from several meters distance. I left the Guadria, going after the voice of my colleague. After 2 minutes of walking in the obscure and old Inca ruins, my phone rang. Kiddo, what are you doing? Said Hector from the other side of the line. Victoria called me. I'm going to see what she wants. I answered while I walked. From some distance, I saw the pit. I think she got trapped inside the pit, I said to him. You moron. Haven't you read Directive 23? Come back to the Guadria now. But what if Victoria left early, you moron. For God's sake, come back already. He was screaming at the cell phone so loudly I could hear his voice echoing in the Guadria. I then stared at the pit. One slender and long arm came out of it and waved at me. I tried to run, but I was so shocked I couldn't. I just kept staring, confused and terrorized. And then I heard a step behind me. I slowly turned around. I saw what looked like one of the Spanish conquistadors from the 16th century. But his face was horrifying. It was completely deformed and seemed putrid. His clothing was old, dusty, and falling apart. His eyes were completely black. He just stood still and smiled, revealing hundreds of teeth that weren't even supposed to fit in his mouth. I didn't even stop at the Guadria. I ran to my car and got out of there as soon as I could, looking back every 5 seconds to see if something was following me. But nothing happened. The path down the mountain was a long and scary one, as I was completely alone and the only light on the road were from my car lanterns. Not even the moon was there that night. I stopped at my home, locked all the doors and windows, and laid on my bed. I couldn't sleep with the light turned off that night. The only thing that made me feel safe was the sound of cars outside my home and dogs barking in the neighborhood. I'm posting this at work now, as my supervisor instructed, because I have to open up with someone, and my colleagues refuse to talk to me about it. I spent almost my entire free time today reading the rules again and again. I'm thinking about resigning this goddamn job, like many of you suggested, but I have to work at least 10 more days according to my contract. Wish me luck. I'll keep you updated.